Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the invitation to present at the Sydney Mining Club. It's a fantastic, my first Sydney Mining Club presentation. Righto, let me tell you about Lindian Resources. We have two assets. One's in Guinea, which is 1 billion tonnes of bauxite. I'm not going to talk about that tonight because the topic is rare earths, and this is about developing a rare earths powerhouse within Malawi. It is generally a Tier 1 asset, and hopefully I can step you through some of the metrics of this project that will prove that this is the case. So first of all, where is it? It's in Malawi. Malawi's in the southern and eastern part of Africa. There's a big lake that's part of the Rift Valley system, which is called Lake Malawi. It's 650 kilometres long, 150 kilometres wide, by almost a kilometre deepest at its deepest point of fresh water. And the only river that comes out of that is a river called the Shire River, or Shiri River is what they call it in Malawi. Goes through that town in Lawandi, which is on one of those slides there, and travels at about 1,000 cubic metres per second. It's one hell of a river. The site itself is located south of a town called Balaka. It's got 36,000 people. Ideally located, unbelievably lucky to be located around some infrastructure. There's high voltage power lines there from a hydroelectric power scheme. That's 132 and a 66 kVA line. The M1 highway runs up 5 kilometres from site, and Balaka is only 20 kilometres from site. So it's very close to existing infrastructure, so no need for airports or camps or things like that. The red box in the middle is a mining licence. The blue box around the outside is our exploration licence. And that pimple in the middle of the red box is Kangankundi Hill. I nickname it the King because people have a bit of linguistic issues about speaking or pronouncing Kangankundi. Today we released an updated mineral resource estimate which included that indicated resource category of 61 million tonnes at 2.48%, so that's 24,800 ppm total rare earths. With an NdP ratio of 20%, it's got about 300,000 tonnes of NdPr. Then the inferred category takes us up to a total of 261 million tonnes. Within that indicated resource category, which is our focus, there's a higher grade portion of 25 million tonnes at 3.26% TREO. And that's going to be basically the focus of our mining studies and mine scheduling, about how we optimise that to produce a higher grade product for feed to the mill. We've completed most of our studies, the ESIA, Environmental Management Plan, resources, geotechnical studies. It's all ready to go. In fact, we're on track now to actually publish a feasibility study next month. So is that the end of the story, the 261 million tonnes? And if I can just point out on either side, both on the left-hand side, there's a dark yellow patch, and that's the surface footprint of the mineral resource, the whole 261 million tonnes. There's that fawny coloured mineralisation around the outside, and these two prospects, north and south. And the South Knoll and North Knoll have got some rock chips assays on them, and there's some material going 2, 3, 6%, up to the North Knoll where it goes up to 7% in grade. We know that mineralisation around the MRE is also mineralised, so there's the potential to extend the surface footprint of this thing. So the other cross-section there shows the relationship between the indicated resources on the surface, the inferred resources below that, and we did 2 deep drill holes underneath the inferred resource. The first one there went 854 metres at 2.73%. That first interval, it's not actually assay, or we did assay it, we just don't tell what the assays are. The first interval there in the yellow zone went 0.5%, and the material down the bottom in the brown material went 0.7%. The second drill hole, which is not shown, which came into the section this way, was 1,000 metres at 2.6 with a high grade zone of, if my memory is correct, 805 metres at 2.9% TREO. So, does this extend below the inferred resource by 1 or 2 steps below that? Probably. Is there 750 to 1 billion tonne type resource at somewhere around 2.5%? Absolutely. So it is an absolute giant of a deposit. And this is what the mineral resource estimate looks like in a grade tonnage curve. And I don't know whether people here are got the I don't know your technical background, but this gave us the relationship between grade and tonnage, and we chose at that down the bottom. If you read the 2.5% and bring it up, there's a line there that says 2.4. 3.26%. So that's the grade of the mineral resource. You go up the tonnage line and it says it's 25 million tonnes. So in this relationship, you can actually work up and down the graph and say, okay, if we increased our cut-off grade, we can actually get a smaller tonnes, but we get higher grade. So this is what we use to then input into our mining model to work out what the optimised outcome is for mining. Now the next slide is probably the most, this project, I've been in this industry almost 35 years in mining, and this is the most unusual deposit I've ever come across in terms of a mining relationship. So that big footprint there on the left-hand side is the surface expression of the resource block model, the inferred resource of 261 million tonnes, and the darker areas there are what we're focusing on. They're the little high-grade pods, which represent around about 10% of the surface area of the deposit. So now if you go to the cross-section, we're talking about what is the relationship of the inferred resource to the mineral resource, and what's the grade look like within the cross-section. So you can see, I need to get off the stage, right? Oh. I'm looking at this pod here. That's going 4 to 6%, and this pod over here is also going 4 to 6%. So this one over here, so this little zone here, and that zone there. They're going to form the basis of the first mining schedule. So it's starting in the high-grade material. The odd thing about this is that we can probably start with a zero waste ratio, but when you actually start taking low-grade mineralisation around the high-grade zones, you're actually mining mineralisation. You're not mining waste. So every time we mine an extra strip ratio, we're actually developing a mineral resource category as measured reserve, which goes into proven resources. So this is an unusual deposit. The waste strip ratio initially is likely to be zero. Further down the track, when we increase the strip ratio, we're actually stripping out and storing and stockpiling lower grade material for future mining studies. The other thing is that we're mining up a hill. So your trucks are going up empty and they're coming down full, which means you've got efficiency in terms of fuel consumption. So some really good mining study is going to come out that within the next month. So what's our business model? You see the amount of money spent going downstream into hydrometallurgy and the risk taken in technical, and we're not doing that. We're sticking to a simple process of mining, beneficiation and producing a monazite concentrate, because this is one of the most unusual deposits in the world. We've got good recovery, we've got great concentrate grade, we've got a very good NdPr ratio, but most important, we've got a non-radioactive monazite. Now, it's probably the only non-radioactive monazite in the world that's of this scale, that's for sure. So you see people saying, I'm going to explore for monazite, I'm looking for radioactive zones. This is a deposit that says you shouldn't look in the radioactive areas, look in the non-radioactive areas, because monazite does exist in a non-radioactive form. That's probably the most dexterous commercial aspect we have of this deposit, because it becomes a general good, which means we can transport it anywhere in the world without the necessity for class 7 radiation goods type material. So it's a general good transportation. Also means it's cheaper. So just a snapshot into the market. From 2010 to 2020, the NdPr market grew from about 20,000 tonnes to slightly over 40,000 tonnes per annum. So that's a doubling over 10 years. Last year it was around about 55,000 tonnes. If you take two projections here, one is the old trend projected forward versus what people think the trend of consumption is going to be, is somewhere between 20 to 50,000 tonnes of extra NdPr needed in the market by 2030, which is not long away at all. So in terms of price, I've tried to collate there various groups that have an opinion on price. And the thick dark blue line plus the red dashed line is probably the ones you will focus on. The thick blue one is Project Blue. So they're a research group. And the dip in the price there is basically, well, they're saying this, first of all, there's going to be a price recovery from around about 60 at the moment to, what's that, around about almost $100 a kilo. And there's a slight dip in there where they're saying, well, if all the projects that are on plan to be on production come online, there's probably a dip and a slightly oversupply before we come back to a price recovery when there's then a deficit in the market. If they don't come online or they're delayed, then the red line is kind of the trend where you think NdPr price is going to go. So with a massive resource, what's our focus? it's development, because we have a fully permitted project. We have our mining licence, we have our ESI certificate and licence, we have our explosives licence, we have our water permits, so it's fully permitted to go into construction and production. And what we'll report in this quarter, which is only a couple of months to go, is the feasibility report. So we're right now doing all our mining schedules. They'll drop out our ore reserves, feed into our feasibility report. Our CapEx and OpEx will drop out. In fact, I'm 98% certain of what our CapEx is, and I'm 98% pretty sure about our OpEx prices as well at the moment. So that's what the news flow is going to come in this next quarter. The next box really is going to be updated in the future about what's the value proposition of the organisation, what's its NPV, what's its EBITDA, what's it really going to do in terms of our value for our shareholders. So it's really just filling in some things about what is our strategic position at the moment: superior asset, superior quality product with massive scalability. And in fact, just to give you a test of, or an insight as to what our plan will be, first stage is around about 10,000 tonne per annum of rare earths. So it's a very small plant, it's about 450,000 tonne per annum. Really, that is positioning this project as an entry point into the rare earths market, saying, okay, over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll de-risk this, we'll get and understand what our mineral deposit variability looks like, we'll optimise our plant, who wants what product, and what scale do we go to next? Because this has the capability of producing, I don't know, 30, 40, 60,000 tonnes of rare earth per annum as market demands it. And we can strategically grow that company over that period of time as demand comes along. So this is our aim, to be a leader of the best value and most cost-efficient producer of concentrate in the rare earth market. It is sustainable. With access to this hydroelectric power, our carbon footprint's very small, very low, and there's a future opportunity of actually converting our mobile fleet into electric. Electric trucks go up empty, they come down full. So it's actually ideal for electric truck fleet conversion. Not yet, let's get going first with a diesel fleet. And then positioning ourselves as a growth opportunity and expand. I position this project as it's like a disruptor. It's got the capability of actually really disrupting the rare earth supply chain. More importantly, it's an enabler. So if you're a downstream magnet manufacturer, your business plan is basically every year, because your quota system that comes out of China is the limitation on what your business plan in the future is. So how can you grow? How can you have a 5-year plan? How can you have a 10-year plan? This is the project that if you're a magnet manufacturer says, I now have a business plan downstream where I can grow the industry. Now, last one I'll finish with is Kunti the King, because it's a nickname. But this is actually our traditional area senior village chief. His name's Nkosi Chantunya. And he and his community have been extraordinarily supportive of this project. It's really, the relationship I have with him and the next down senior chief and the village chief, who's a woman, Makalela, who calls me brother, has been fundamental in our success in this project. Bear in mind, we've had this project 20 months. I've done all those engineering studies within a 20-month time frame. So I couldn't have done this without those people. And I couldn't have done it had I not the right kind of access to historical information that allows me to fast track this engineering. So I'm not that clever. I just used old information and leveraged off it to actually make it look like I was good. This is a superior tier 1 asset. It is actually crucial to global supply, and it's got massive scalability. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the Lindian story. We're no longer a resource or exploration company. We're in development. It looks like a 12-month time frame. Once we understand when our development schedule kicks off, I can tell you when we're going to be operating. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure.
We have enough time for a couple of questions. Gerardo?
What percentage is 30%? What percentage is heavy rare earths in that?
Oh, very little. So NdPr combined is 0.1%. So there's no credits in our sales contract for that. Funnily enough, you get a little bit of a sale credit for cerium and lanthanum, which was unusual. And SEG is a little bit of a kicker as well, but 95% of your value is in NdPr. Yes, sir.
I'm very curious about your non-radioactive monazite. Can you talk a little bit about that? How maybe geologically how that would come about? Because it's an anomaly.
Apart from magic?
Well,
No,
I don't think.
do you know Leon Pretorius? He was one of the original founders of Deep Yellow. We had a talk with him one day. If you have elevated levels of cerium in your monazite, it preferentially displaces thorium and uranium. So we end up with a depleted thorium-uranium product. However, the uranium grades in the carbonatite in total go around about 2 ppm uranium and around about 20 thorium. So it's depleted itself. And in fact, when you drill and you see these breccias come in on the side, you can see the actual uranium and level and thorium kick up because you've got granites and whatnot contaminating the material. It's not the carbonatite, it's the host rocks that have this elevated. So there's a really good handle at the moment about rock type differentiation around uranium and thorium. But the reason it's depleted is it's high cerium, which means it's a light rare earth project.
One more.
You talked about beneficiation. What extraction methods are you using? What does the process flow sheet look like?
There's 3 types of mineral deposits in rare earths, typically a basnazite, rare earth carbonate, monazite, rare earth phosphate, and the most difficult one between which you get a combination of basnazite, carbonate and monazite together. We're lucky that 99% of our material is monazite sitting in a carbonatite. So the rare earth monazite's heavy, it's density around 5, 5.5. The waste rock's about 3, it's gravity separation. So we're doing mobile crushing plants first up, grind size to 75 micron. We're going straight to a multi-gravity separator, which I won't explain here. It's a continuous drum rotation system, into a WIMS out the back, straight into a press. That's the system. So no chemicals, water only. Apart from the thickener, well, you got flock. Okay, thank you.